Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 𝐤𝐭 Digital Summit on Social Media and PR. My name is Scott Carr. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications here at 𝐤𝐭. We have a really great event for you today and excited that you could join with us. As we begin, I want to encourage you to use the chat feature. You'll find it in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And here's where you can communicate with the 𝐤𝐭 team as well as the speakers during the session to be able to ask questions that you have. We will record these questions, and at the end of each session, we'll be holding a live Q&A with the speakers. So please feel free to share your thoughts there, network with each other as well. Go ahead and say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. We want this to be an interactive experience for everybody. This also goes without saying, but please be respectful in the comments and polite when commenting in the chat. We want this to be a safe and encouraging environment for everybody who's participating. Next, we want to also let you know this is being recorded, and we will be sending out the presentation slides and the recording early next week to anyone who's registered. So look forward to seeing that. And then we also want to hear your insights, what key takeaways you had. Go ahead and utilize the hashtag #StuKentDS23 when sharing on your social media profiles. We're really excited to get some feedback and comments there as we spread this message out to other educators like yourself who could benefit. Also, at the end of the summit today, we're going to be sharing a great resource with different assignments for your classroom on these topics. And so stay tuned until the end so that we can be able to send those out to you and you can start utilizing those in your next class. Additionally, we want this to be an interactive experience, as I said, and so we're going to be doing polls throughout the presentation. You can see that in the upper right-hand corner as well. You can toggle between chat and polls. And we're going to start with 2 questions in the polls. We'd love to get your feedback. What social platform? We're assuming that if you're joining this, you're probably pretty active on social media. So we want to know, where are you active? And then, are you on Threads? That's what everyone's talking about right now in the world of social media. So please go in and fill out your answers there. While everyone's doing that, we did a quick dive into Threads. So of the top 30 brands being analyzed on Threads right now, 87% of those brands were seeing more engagement on their posts on Threads versus Twitter. And those posts were receiving 8 times the amount of likes on Threads versus Twitter. So is that a sustainable thing? Is it just because it's new and flashy? I guess we'll find out. So looks like about 70% of you are on Threads already, and 5 of you don't know what Threads is. So I'm glad that you're joining today. We're going to talk about what's new in social media, this being one of them. And then favorite social platforms, LinkedIn is winning nearly 40% there, Instagram a close second, and Facebook. So that's awesome. Thank you for participating a little bit. All right, over the last decade, 𝐤𝐭 has developed more than 30 courseware and simulation offerings for marketing, business, and communications, and now even accounting students. We're not stopping there. We promise to continue to innovate and develop products in new subjects and new categories. With this group today, we want to make sure there's a few subjects that you're aware of, that being public relations, social media marketing, integrated marketing communications, crisis communications, and more. And today we're also excited to be able to announce a new courseware called Public Relations Case Studies to our library. So feel free to click and be able to get a demo for this new courseware. It's really exciting, and we're very excited to bring that to you today. Additionally, for a limited time, you might have seen this, but we are doing a t-shirt giveaway of our very coveted Professor Sayings t-shirts. So these will save you a bunch of time and effort on your first day of class during the semester. But if you set up a walkthrough with any of our 𝐤𝐭 course consultants from now until July 20th, so that's next week on Thursday, we'll send you a free shirt. So go ahead and you can click the link to follow through to that to schedule a demo, but do it quickly. Our course consultant calendars are filling up very quickly. Now, to start things off for this digital summit, I want to introduce our CEO and founder, Stuart Draper, who's here to share a few thoughts with you.
Hi, everyone. At 𝐒𝐭 we're on a mission to help educators help students help the world. We create up-to-date, turnkey materials that save you time and make your job as an educator a little easier, and your students' jobs a lot more engaging. Our first-in-the-world simternships, or simulated internships, give your students real-world practice with the concepts that you're teaching them. These powerful simulations work hand-in-hand with our courseware. 𝐒𝐭 courseware gives you great resources like detailed lesson plans and auto-graded chapter quizzes, while your students get an accessible, engaging digital text. But you know what? While these materials are ready to be released, our work on them is never really done. 𝐒𝐭's slogan is "Stay Current." We update our courseware and simternships annually to keep them current with what's happening in your industry. If there's something you think we can improve, let us know. Consider us your custom simulation and courseware provider. If we don't make it just the way you need it, we'll keep working on it to make it better. We're dedicated to bringing you the best simulations and courseware in the industry, and we're not going anywhere. Over the last decade, we've experienced explosive growth, and we now offer more than 40 simternships and courseware bundles across 4 different categories: marketing, business, communications, and accounting. To date, we've helped nearly 1 million students at schools all over the world, and we can't wait to help you and your students next. Today, we're going to explore some great topics, ideas, tools, and strategies that can help enrich your curriculum, enhance learning, and keep you current with your industry. Throughout the event, feel free to chat in any questions you may have. The 𝐒𝐭 team will be standing by to help you. And if you enjoyed today's event, you can visit 𝐒𝐭.com to get connected and see a schedule of our upcoming launches, fireside chats, presentations, and more. Each month, we host events just like this one, and we're building some great online communities for professors in the marketing, business, communications, and accounting spaces. We want to give you a place to meet new colleagues, collaborate on ideas, and share your professional insights and brilliance. So, thank you for joining us today. I hope today's event helps you, help your students, help the world. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate your words there. Awesome. Well, today we want to get right into the main event. And so here we have our agenda for today. So first we're going to hear from from Dr. Aggie. My screen's blocking it right now. Dr. Alisa Agozzino, who's an associate professor of public relations at Ohio Northern University. And she's also the PR program head for that university. She's going to be talking about what's hot in public relations. Next, we'll hear from Amy Herzenberg, who's an industry expert, who's going to be sharing some of her social media tips and tricks and tools that you'll be able to utilize in your classrooms, as well as be able to share with your students who are interested in a field of social media marketing. Our last speaker will be Kelly Crane, who's going to be talking about a very popular topic of AI and how it's transforming integrated marketing communication. So let's get started. And Dr. Aggie, if you want to come join me on stage here, and we will get started there. So Dr. Alisa Agozzino is an associate professor of public relations at Ohio Northern University. And as the PR program head, she has taught over 16 different classes within the major and developed a social media minor for any major on campus. She's received numerous awards for teaching, including the International Pearson Award for Innovation in Teaching with Technology. She's also the co-author of 𝐒𝐭's PR Principles courseware. As a special gift to everyone attending today, we want to offer you free instructor access to this PR Principles courseware. And with the instructor access, what you're able to get is entire courseware, including lesson plans, assignments, lecture slides, and more. So we want to offer that to you for your attendance today. So thank you for joining us. And Dr. Aggie, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to talk to you more about what's happening in PR world. If you're teaching PR classes or social media and PR classes, how that kind of intertwines and what's new and upcoming, and kind of my task today was what's hot, besides it's July here and it's hot here, but what's kind of hot and trending within in PR world. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about. And without further ado, let's get started. Anytime you're asked, and many of you are instructors and know this, anytime you're asked to kind of like trend out, what do you see the future? What's going to be, happening within the next 6 months? It's like looking into a crystal ball, right? Like we're trying to figure out what's hot, what's happening, what we should be teaching in our classrooms to stay current. And I love the speaker lineup today is going to highlight, I'm sure I'm going to introduce some of these ideas. Jane's going to talk about the AI, and Amy's going to talk more about the content strategy and working with that and the social media stuff. So I'm super excited. You're going to get more in depth of those two particular topics. But in looking at where we are right now, halfway through the year, kind of what, as you're prepping your fall classes, what should we be teaching our students so we're not behind, right? If you're one of those people that we're saying, I'm not really sure what Threads even is yet, we always want to be a step ahead. And I don't know about you, but I feel like PR and social media is constantly changing. And I've joked with my colleagues in the communication college when they come down and they sit in my office and they're like, what are you working on today? And I was like, oh my God, like every day, right? We're working on something because it's constantly changing in social media world. And they always joke, the public speaking instructors joke, well, that's why you studied Aristotle and things haven't changed since him in public speaking. So maybe we picked the wrong major, but the great thing is it's constantly changing and we always have fun things to talk about. So looking into my crystal ball, these are, I came up with 6. I don't know. I'm not that person that has to have 5 or 10 or, some even Steven number, but I kind of had 6 things that I couldn't divvy out anymore that just kept coming back to as far as the trends of what we should be enlightening our students here in the fall. So I'm going to go through each one of these in a little bit more detail, give you some case studies that I found that I will probably incorporate into my classroom in the fall. And then eventually you'll probably see some of these things in the book. As Stu had mentioned, our book is constantly updated annually. And so, we try to keep the case studies, Jamie and I try to keep the case studies as up to date as possible. So you as the instructor have current things happening and a huge pull for that. And one of the, intro to PR books, you can find those all over. We always say that what makes our intro book a little bit more unique is every chapter ends on what we call diverse voices. And that's the first one, the social responsibility factor, and that DEI or that CSR piece is huge. And so we wanted to give that, and we are constantly updating those as well, so that you constantly have a piece of that puzzle that you're weaving in, not just like a chapter on it, but weaving it into each part of that textbook and saying, it fits in with social media, it fits in with ethics, it fits in with running a PR campaign. So how does that fall into each of those different pieces? So I got to keep moving, because if I don't, I can go off on these little tangents all day. So the first one here, the social responsibility is such a huge part. And this is that first piece. It's no longer enough for those brands to kind of give that simple nod to their corporate values or ethics and their responsibility to the community. So customers are really quick to call out those companies that aren't sincere in their efforts. And it can, eventually ruin or truly damage that brand's reputation. So in short, customers are going to choose to engage with these brands who show commitment to positively impacting the world. And so we have to have that right PR strategy that communicates and kind of promotes those positive values and therefore are likely to positively impact that company brand awareness. So how can we pass that on to students, specifically within that bubble, that DEI specifically? We're moving forward. It's a huge push in public relations industry as a whole. But as we're moving forward as a business and teaching our students, like as you go into this and you're practicing public relations, businesses are going to need to be more intentional about how you're going to execute those DEI initiatives. And in the media industry, reporters covering those stories on DEI want to be assured that the newsrooms that they work for follow those same guidelines that they're writing about. So as a PR firm, if you're in that PR firm, you know, those things that you're putting forward that your company is doing or your brands are doing, you want to make sure that you're walking the walk, right? So you want to share stories that are diverse and inclusive, and this kind of requires some critical analysis of information from a variety of perspectives and voices. So according to this growing trend, businesses that are going to create these diverse environments in 2023 are going to be more likely, we would hope, to resonate with that global audience and move forward in that regard. So putting an emphasis in there, I have a couple slides here of what I'm going to, it didn't come in as exactly. Sprout Social has this campaign if you're looking for more information or putting kind of an assignment beside it or something of that nature. But what we see here is Subaru's Love for Pets campaign, and it really kind of kicked off in 2019 before COVID hit. They dedicate one day to pets, and then specifically it got a little bit deeper, and in 2022 they partnered with a comedian on Twitter, the account We Rate Dogs, and it's up here if you want to go check it out. And they basically were sharing adoption stories and of course dog ratings. And this is a video. When you get the slides, you can actually click on it and it'll take you out to the video that they put together to kind of champion this campaign. But along with this, they also had a long-standing relationship and partnership with the ASPCA. So it shows how their corporate social responsibility efforts don't necessarily need to be tied with the industry, because obviously Subaru's automobile, those types of things, or a business function. So just taking a piece of that and showing how they support it. So creator partnerships aren't limited to just that product promotion anymore. But again, this is giving, a culture feel of how it would be to work with Subaru and be in that type of culture, extending their internal communications to that external audience, but also, putting where their passion lies within their company's brand. And again, it doesn't have to always be aligned with what the company, what they produce or their products. Now, Coke is a little bit different. Obviously, you need a bottle to contain the liquid. And this was found on the Digital Marketing Institute, put this kind of case study together on sustainability in Coca-Cola, kind of aiming, the campaign aims to collect and recycle every bottle, right? So they come up with this by 2030 that they want to reduce their carbon footprint by 25%. So they've made a real effort to support how they have made the 100% plant-based plastic, and that they're replacing all their water used in their drinks back into the environment to ensure that water security. So just again, how does that corporate social responsibility fit into different parts of those particular campaigns, and that company brand and identity? How is that connected to it? That's going to be huge, and that's going to continue to be huge. So as we are teaching our students maybe that one chapter within our business college or our business class, and we're talking about corporate social responsibility, expanding upon that to how that looks for corporate social responsibility, how that looks for your DE&I efforts, how that translates across all those different brands, no matter what you're doing. Now, like I said, you're going to get way more information on this, and I am not the resident expert by any means. So I will let that to the experts, but I did want to talk about that increased focus on AI. And unless, my joke here, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that that we're applying AI, that artificial intelligence, to PR. And it's opening up a whole new world of tools. We thought social media was wild. This is even getting deeper into the woods. For example, some of the AI algorithms can help create personalized digital experiences for your clients, or they can help generate content and visuals that, you know, at one point you kind of had to be the resident expert of Canva and know how to design everything. And it's pulling those types of things together. So a number of investors are very confident that AI can solve a whole bunch of our problems, right? We're hopeful. And a recent survey by Forbes said that 1 in 5 professionals use AI in their strategies to communicate clearly and effectively. So does it come without problems? No, and I'm sure you're going to learn more about that today. But this generative, I don't know if you've heard, even if you go more into the weeds of AI, if you've heard of generative AI, it's already on the radar of most media professionals and many of the social media managers and writers who are creating content regularly. That generative AI can create images, it can create videos with the risk of some deep fakes, but the voice recordings, text, like social media messages or captions or blog posts, even articles. So some of those PR professionals have even started to explore AI specifically to machine learning and create more personalized pitches, which, if you've noticed in my top 6 things, personalized pitches is a huge thing for 2023. It's really hot. So those personalized pitches and more effective subject lines are also coming about. And then that last point there, artificial intelligence can be a powerful ally, right, in this ever-changing world of communication. So when we combine that AI with the human experience, we kind of open ourselves up to a whole new era of communication that we're all exploring together, and it'll just give professionals another way to connect and kind of resonate and drive success, we're hoping, through this new platform. So that's the hope there. Does it come without risk? Of course not. I highlighted just a little some pros and cons, again, pulled some things from the internet and tried to give you as much of where I pulled them from. So if you want to use them in the classroom, that you have these tools at your disposal as well. But the first one, how can the team kind of reduce those AI risk? I know it's really probably kind of small on your screen unless you can zoom in. But that first one, we need to kind of double check everything, right? We need to make sure that what we're doing, what we're putting out there, there's going to be some bias in it because algorithms aren't perfect, right? And someone has to code some of that stuff on the front end. So they're not going to all be perfect. And for that reason, just like we tell our students, double check your work, always ask someone for the sources of who's coding that, or take time to verify the validity of what has come out of that. As long as you're doing that, you're probably doing great, but make sure you're double checking. Prioritize the data security. Again, you've heard of this, right? If you're working with your IT team, your legal teams to kind of create policies around those employers that are using that AI in their work, as long as we're cool and we have our bases covered, it kind of goes back to making sure the privacy part of that we're not breaking any laws or any rules in what we're collecting of that data on the back end. And then finally, embracing experimentation. We're not experts on this yet. It's okay. You're not supposed to be. So just encouraging your team to engage in responsible AI experimentation, making sure that it's a safe space, right? Like just like when we were using new social media tools and we were scared of what they could do and what they can't do, right? Like we just need to be careful and supportive of what's happening in that AI space. We talk about pros on the opposite end here. Obviously, we're going to collect, ideally, hopefully, tons of great social insight. And hopefully we can use that to our advantage. I've always said social media can be used for good or evil. Here's a great example of how that works, right? Like, it can be great. We can use it for bad. So let's be kind and use it for good. But it's going to collect a whole bunch of that social insight. And like I said, streamlining content, that content creation, being able to pitch, personalized pitch, those types of things. Like, we're going to get some great things. And I know if any of you are like me and teach a lot of PR writing type classes, we're going to have to go back to the other side where we're going to have to embrace that experimentation. But then hopefully we're going to be able to streamline some of that content creation and be able to do a lot more with what not as much resources, right? That's ideal. The next slide here talks about Amazon and their AI. And they were kind of the first to pioneer this personalized shopping recommendation, right? It was one of the first ones. And over the years, that algorithm has become increasingly sophisticated, and suggestions are kind of now based not only on your past purchases of what we're coming off Prime days, right? I know that I can't be the only one on this call that it played with my Prime Day purchases, right? But it also kind of brings in items that other customers have bought in conjunction with the things that you're purchasing. It's searching and browsing behavior, like what have you searched for in the past, a whole bunch of other factors that they've kind of put into. They've kind of become the resident experts on this. But Amazon also uses that artificial intelligence to drive the dynamic pricing. And so reducing prices to elicit more sales when needed, or increasing prices when the demand is high, that algorithm enables the optimal sales and revenue automatically. So not that we have to be experts on that in public relations, but knowing how that all feeds into then our publicity efforts and kind of moving forward with our marketing efforts. Amazon's just still forging along as the leader of the use of technology, but this video, when you go, I'm not going to show it again, but they're in my slides, so you can go back and watch them. This is something you could show in the classroom. Amazon has now opened these checkout free stores in Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco. I'm in Ada, Ohio, in the middle of cornfields, so no high tech here, but they have AI powered sensors and cameras, and this technology can tell exactly what items that customer has picked up and will charge them automatically as they walk out of the store using that Amazon Go app. How cool is that? Like, how do we do that? How do we market that? How do we use our PR expertise to get our students up to speed with, these are the types of jobs like that they're going to be looking at, right? Like, how do you market that? And how do you get that information out that AI is not all scary and they're not going to steal all your information? We hope not. But how do you get that going forward? The third point, I don't know why my stuff's shifted a little bit. I apologize, but that should say Edelman's Trust Barometer. And this is huge with NPR. I'm sure anybody in this teaching NPR has heard of Edelman. And each year they do the Trust Barometer, and they're really pushing how these four forces have led to polarization of our culture here in the US. And they do, if you've never been there, if you've never checked it out, I know it's in her book to check out, maybe even under the ethics chapter. But at any rate, like, you can check out, and it's done it for the last, I think they started in 2000. So I think we're on our 3rd year of looking this up, but they've kind of bottlenecked or put these into these categories of these four forces that kind of lead to that. Economic anxieties. People are super nervous, right, about the all-time lows of people who think their families are better off in 5 years. They're not feeling that, right? Or the institutional imbalance between the business is now the sole institution, and it's seen as competent and ethical, and government's viewed as unethical and incompetent. And so that business piece of that, under pressure to kind of step in and fill that void, we got the mass class divide, where people in the top the top part of the income bracket differ trust reality than those in the bottom. And so we can see that as a problem. And then the battle for truth. And the battle for truth, if you go back to my first slide, is kind of what's heading down, what's trending within PR is people don't want fake news, right? They're really battling for this truth. And so that shared media environment has given, it's made it harder to collaboratively solve those problems. And the media is not always trusted, as we know, especially in a low trust social media environment. So that even becomes a bigger problem. So basically they've come up with that in mind, Edelman has put forth on their website like 4 things to kind of move forward, a to-do list for businesses. And this is important for us as PR practitioners to be teaching our students, that these are things that we need to look forward in advising our business leaders, right? We need to get a simple measure of that ESG so you can demonstrate your social impact, how that fits into it. Make diversity, equity, inclusion a fundamental part of that global strategy. So we see that feeding back to that first point that I made, holding diverse forces accountable. So polling, again, going back to point number 1, polling advertising money from media platforms who are spreading that disinformation, holding our guns, right? And then working with and not against the government, because again, we still need to be collaborative. We still need to be good working people. And in PR world, especially with PRSA, which is the Public Relations Society of America, if you're not familiar with, they've even run like this website called Voices for Everyone. And this is a great resource for our students to kind of explore. They have a whole bunch of fact checkers. If you have a PRSSA chapter on your campus, they've done some things with the PRSSA chapters and kind of really cool apps and games and things of that nature to kind of identify your awareness of, can you identify if something is trustworthy or not? And so if you haven't checked that out, that's another good one to check out and kind of work into your classroom assignments and activities, because again, it's just something, it's another avenue for, well, I think their tagline is something like, it supports the national conversation for mutual understanding, trust, civil engagement through inclusiveness and civil discourse. Like they want to move forward, right? And how are we going to do that in communicating, and in particularly in public relations? How are we going to do that? And this Voices for Everyone gives us as instructors some additional feedback and some additional resources for our students to kind of become experts in that area. Number 4 is all about, again, staying true to your blood, right? And being authentic, unique, sticking to what your culture believes is correct. And in doing that, again, this is a video. This is their Rebuild the World campaign. And this was one of the first ones that LEGO's first global PR campaign in decades. They hadn't done one in quite a while, but their Rebuild the World was kind of focused on inspiring creative thinking in kids, but also adults. And being part of a PR campaign, LEGO asked customers basically to submit pictures of their creations, right? We build these cool things with our Legos. They aggregated them onto a 3D globe with the brand's website, and then the users could move and spin the globe to see what people worldwide had kind of created. The best part of the Rebuild World kind of struck this perfect balance between inspirational and playful, which is exactly what LEGO's known for. That fits their overall brand personality, which if we go back to that first 6 things that are trending, I just think brands want people to move. Brands that want people to move, to deliver to that authentic kind of unfiltered content that's more likely to reign supreme in this year. So if you're looking to earn more media coverage, if you're looking to advise your client on how to earn that media coverage, find something unique, a unique story, a unique angle that's going to make your story more newsworthy. And there's a plethora, right, and a variety of tools for media professionals, and all kinds of various initiatives that will be top of mind. But the ability to identify that misinformation, that disinformation in the news is going to remain incredibly important. And so any way that we can help identify when that's wrong, and then make sure that we're advising our brands to keep that authenticity, that transparency top of mind is going to be important as well. Number 5, pitching 2.0. Like I said, back when we were talking about AI, this has become increasingly more important. And while I could have tied it into AI a little bit more, I just thought I would mention it here because this is a huge part of what we 𝐒𝐭𝐮 tried to incorporate into the sim, and also that we tried to incorporate into our book on pitching, working with media, those types of things is still such a huge part of public relations. And I think a lot of times as instructors, we have a hard time of how to translate that to students, right? Without actually doing it. How do you translate? How are you going to pitch, right? And I think we found this year, even more so with AI, the pitch needs to be backed by some research, right? And AI can help you do that quicker. And then they need to be personalized. So you're looking up more and more about who you're pitching, what's of interest to them. And these are not new concepts necessarily, but there's a total emphasis on it. So these mass emails that are sent out by these giant companies that, send your press release to 50 bazillion people and they're not personalized and they're going straight in the trash. This is kind of training us to be very much in tune with where those press releases or where we're pitching to get that story covered. Jamie and I have in our book, under the chapter on writing, pitching, journalist as well. And that we've done an assignment for years called Pitching Pete. That's really his name. And he's been great because it's someone that's actually in that space. He gets pitched to every day. He works with students. And I'm happy to share that assignment if you want to talk offline about it. But it's just another way. And Pete works with our students of talking through, like, you need to look at other work that I've done. You need to do this, you need to do that. And AI is making that all a little bit easier for us to gather that information. So how can we do that even quicker? The video on this particular slide that you'll find here is just something that I show in the classroom. Again, I have no ties or connection to this YouTube video. It's just a good overview of what media pitching is. Maybe if you're teaching an intro class, not doing PR writing or anything like that, but you're not getting too much into the weeds, but you want to introduce what a media pitch is, how that works. I think this is a cute video and something that's quick, but really digs down into what is media pitching and why it's important. I know that one of my favorite people in the whole world is coming up next to Amy, and she's going to talk way more about content strategy and how you fit content strategy into social media. So I won't spend a great deal of time here. And anyone that's been in PR, worked in PR, probably understands content strategy does exist, and we might skip it. It's kind of like one of those things that if you have to skip one thing, maybe not plan out your whole entire life, but instead just wing it. In 2023, we really want to make a conscious effort to have that content strategy, because if we have that strategy, it's so much easier to measure. It's so much easier to prove our return on investment, things of that nature. So I've put the 10 steps of how to work through the content strategy, but our public relations plans should definitely include more than just gaining this free publicity in the press, right? We should put our energies into producing media, whether it be blogs or emails or social media content, whatever it is, in this way, the business can reach that intended audiences without resorting to these overpriced promotions and things of that nature that they also do. So you can make assignments that include walking through. Maybe you don't need all 10, right? You just want to kind of highlight one of these steps, and you don't have to implement the entire campaign. But this is just another way for you to connect and reach out to those audience members and those students, and whether it be a client or the students, and kind of hone in on some of these skills that they're going to need. They're going to have a content strategy. They're going to need to establish some goals and select some platforms and track and analyze it at the end. Like, those are some of our basics, right? In our RPI model: research, implement, plan, actually do it, right? Plan, implement, and then evaluate that program. And if you haven't done the stuff on the front end, if you have no strategy, kind of just winging it, that's even a bigger problem. So at any rate, I won't spend a great deal of time there, but have a content strategy, work through that. I think that's all I have for you today. I think I've kept it within the time. They wanted me to leave some time for question and answers. I'm going to reach back and grab my plug, because of course my Mac says it's dying and it's on its last leg. So I'm going to reach back and grab that. And if you guys have a question that you want to ask away.
Perfect. Yes, thank you, Dr. Aggie. Those were great insights. As a communications and PR person myself, I love some of your thoughts, especially around CSR and how brands are using that now. I think it's really interesting to look at the difference between a B2B focused brand versus a B2C focused brand, and how they utilize their PR to grow their brand. So thanks for those insights. Yeah, if you have questions, please add them in the chat. We have a couple that we've been compiling throughout your presentation, so I'll dive right into one of those to get us started. So Dr. Aggie, the question is, a lot of new students are finding jobs in small businesses that don't have a lot of budget for things like this, right? So what's your advice to students or to companies who are looking at getting into PR? Do they hire a PR firm? Do they do it in-house? How do you manage the time allocation, the money allocation to do an effort like that?
It's a great question. And we struggle with this a lot. Just even our school, we have a student-run firm, and it's smaller, and you can't do everything that everyone wants you to do, right? Because they all come to you and want you to do a full-blown campaign for them for the rest of their life. Because the resources aren't there, or they pitch it to you as an instructor, as a learning opportunity for your students, but really they just don't have the time or the resources to do all the things. I think the biggest thing is actually the last point that we landed on, is having a content strategy, knowing that you can't do everything that you would possibly want to do, but having that strategy and doing that one thing well, right? So, and maybe it's just one part of a larger campaign that you eventually want to do, but how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Take those tiny steps of setting up your goals and objectives, being able to actually implement those. And it doesn't have to cost a lot. A lot of times people say social media in public relations is free. We all know that that's a lie, right? There's lots of things. The time's not free, and it definitely takes some time. And if you're just that single person working on those things, I think you set up a plan, right? And you start small, and as those resources become available, and do tap into, encourage. As a small business, you can encourage, if you do have a local chapter or a college chapter that's working as a student-run firm or something of that nature, those are great people to tap in, because if it's a good culture fit and it works and I can incorporate it into the classroom, absolutely, I'm going to give my students that hands-on opportunity. But I know that all of our students need internships as well. And so that's great opportunity for an intern, right? They're getting hands-on experience. They're getting writing samples. They're getting to experience that in real life and not just the classroom. So again, an internship, an intern's going to be a lot more affordable than a public relations retainer. So maybe look into something small at the beginning till you get your feet going, till you get your feet on the ground, and then as those resources become more available, then maybe going more big time. But big time doesn't always mean best, right? I think a lot of people can do a lot with a small budget. So
yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. There's two questions that are on a theme of AI. You touched on it. I know Kelly's going to talk about it later as our last session, but what tools do you recommend for PR specifically with AI? And then when teaching your students, how do you kind of police or monitor how they're utilizing AI with their own work and submissions that they're doing?
Right. So AI, I don't have a particular tool that I think is like the go-to tool that you should be using and trying out and experimenting with. I think if you're open, especially as an instructor, if you're open to experimenting and letting the students experiment, so even incorporating assignments where you're learning as well, so having them go out and experiment with some of these AI tools and coming back and sharing best practices of what they learned or why they would or wouldn't use this in a future job might be best to learn on both ends. Because like I said, we're just at the front end of learning some of these tools and the ins and outs of them. So if you're not the expert in them, most people don't expect you to be the expert. We know that they're coming and we know that we need to learn more about them and we need to become more familiar with them. But I don't think there's like this go-to thing that we need to start experiment or move into the classroom or be using in industry. I know that was the first part of the question. I'm guilty of not listening to the second question because I was already trying to think of my answer. So no, what was the second part?
Well, I love that answer. And I think it ties back into your slides about trust and building trust and how you're building trust with your students. Because yeah, if you have all the answers, that's unrealistic, right? So learning together and helping develop those new concepts, especially with something with AI that's so new and not everyone understands how to utilize it yet. So I love that advice. The second part of that question was in regards to your students utilizing AI for homework assignments and things like that. Do you monitor that? Do you help them with prompt engineering so that way they're utilizing it as a tool belt to improve their work, or what's your philosophy there?
We're learning as we go. This fall will be the first time I have been back to teach a PR writing specific class. We also, as a university, changed our learning management system. This summer was the first semester that we're doing that. So I think between the two of them, all I've done is sit over at the IT building, learning how to best utilize all these tools of what's available to us as instructors and kind of incorporating it with student work. And what do you count as student work anymore? And what do you count as AI putting together for them? I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask where I fall yet on that spectrum. Right now, I'm in the learning stage of this. I still want good writing. I still want it to be cited. I still want, but in PR, that's hard, right? Because we give them, let's say our brand gives them an assignment and you're doing this press release for the new Barbie movie. And that's what you're assigned to, right? Like, so they're acting on behalf of whatever, I don't even know who came out with the Barbie movie, but they're acting on behalf of them as that brand. We don't necessarily, in a press release, we're not citing anything, right? Like it's us, it's the company or the brand doing it. So I'm guessing I'll have a little bit more leniency in citing work or finding that. It's going to be, again, kind of with social media, like you're figuring out the tools, right? So if you're smart enough to figure out how AI can actually write that press release for you, and you go back and you double check it and you make sure everything's factual and authentic to that brand, I'm going to have to be good with that. Like, I think that's just, it's being smart, right? It's like AP style and writing, PR writing. I let them look up the answers in AP because really you're always going to have access to APs. Do you know how to look up the answer? Do you know when you have to look up the answer, right? Like, and I feel like AI tools are going to be kind of like that, where you're going to have to figure it out. And as long, you're still going to have to check it and double check it. But if you know how to use the tool to your advantage, then that should be kudos to that student for for learning it.
Yeah.
Being smarter, working smarter, not harder.
There you go. That's a good adage. This might be our final question just with time. But there's a question there. They want to know, what's Dr. Aggie's favorite piece of content that you're most excited to share with your students this next semester?
Ooh. Oh man, I don't know. Oh, this is so hard. And it has to be, does it have to be PR? I teach a lot of social media too. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into more of the AI industry, the whole industry, right? And it fits in my opinion, it fits in both with public relations and my social media classes. So I'm really super excited to kind of explore some of those things, explore those tools with them. I'm really excited. I like, I'm guilty of when I don't know all the answers that I will make them all come back with one thing, like you can't double up. So I have smaller classes. I know some of you teach at big, huge universities and couldn't do this, but like you all come back and you teach me something, right? You teach me something about an AI tool. And then eventually, I used to call it the Big Four assignment back when it was social media. You had to teach me something about the Big Four social media tools that were available at the time. Obviously, I've had to get rid of that because, you know, we know way too much now, but I feel like I'm going to revive that from the creeps of the social media file and now teach me something new about an AI platform. What do you know? What don't you know? What do you want to know more about? And kind of put the ball in their court of teaching me something, but also them learning, kind of digging into one particular tool and whether they'd use it again or it wasn't worth the work, you know, to put forth the effort on their end to make it work for them. I don't know. That would be my favorite right now. I'm most excited about that.
That's good. Deep learning. That's great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Aggie, so much for joining us this morning, sharing your insights on the trends for PR in 2023. We want to remind everyone that because you're joining us here today, you do get free access to Dr. Aggie's courseware, PR Principles. So go ahead and follow the link to get that. And I brought in a t-shirt. This is the t-shirt that you will win if you schedule a call in the next week with our course consultants to learn about this courseware or another courseware that you're considering for your class. We want to make sure that you have what you need on your first day of class. So thank you, Dr. Aggie. Before we get into our next speaker, we wanted to make you aware of other 𝐒𝐭 events that are happening throughout July and August. And so next week, we're going to be doing an event on the 21st of July. It's about Google Analytics 4. That's new, happening now. And so it has all the information that you need to be able to teach this to your students. And so please join us for that. And then we'll also have a couple of business and accounting webinars coming up in August as well. So if that's applicable to you, great. We'd love to see you again. If not, please share with your colleagues to be able to share some of this courseware and information for them from industry experts.